Vanessa and I had been together for 10 years, married for 7, and while things weren't perfect, I thought we had a good life. We had money, a nice house, vacations when we wanted them, and what I thought was a strong partnership. Looking back now, I can see that the signs were there. Vanessa had always loved luxury, and when she got a big promotion at work, she decided to hire a personal driver, Nathan, to drive her around in the black Mercedes I'd bought for us. At first, I didn't think much of it. She worked long hours, had a lot of meetings, and said that having a driver made life easier. Then she started using him all the time, even for things that didn't make sense: grocery shopping, getting manicures, going to the gym. She was texting all the time, always looking at her phone with that little smile, and suddenly she was too busy for our usual Friday dates. "Work is crazy right now, baby," she would say with a sigh, slipping off her heels as she entered. "You have no idea how exhausting this week has been." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something felt off, and soon I was going to find out exactly why. I tried to shake off the suspicion at first. Vanessa had always been independent, and maybe she just enjoyed the convenience of having a driver. Maybe I was overthinking things, but the signs kept piling up. She stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. Our conversations turned into one-word exchanges. When she came home late, she'd head straight for the shower without so much as a hello. And then there was Nathan. That I had only met him a few times. Tall guy, fit, the kind of charm that made people trust him too easily. He always called me sir, kept things polite, but there was something about the way he avoided eye contact that bugged me. One night, I decided to test something. "Let's have dinner this weekend, just the two of us. It's been a while." Vanessa barely looked up from her phone. "Ugh, I can't. There's this work thing." "A work thing on a Saturday night?" She hesitated for a fraction of a second before forcing a laugh. "Yeah. My boss is hosting a networking event. Super boring, trust me, you don't want to come." I let it go for the moment, but later that night, I did something I'd never done before. I checked the GPS history in the car Nathan drove her around. It should have been to her office, to the salon, to meetings. But there was one address that kept coming up, late at night, over and over again, and it wasn't her office. It was an apartment complex. That's when I knew something was very wrong. I sat there staring at the screen, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. Vanessa's GPS history showed repeated visits to the same apartment complex, never during the day, always at night. Late night meetings? No. This wasn't a work thing. My hands clenched into fists as I scrolled through the timestamps. Some of the visits were as late as 11:30 p.m., long after she had texted me saying she was just finishing up at the office. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach that I needed to be sure. The next night, Vanessa got home late again. I was sitting on the couch when she walked in, her makeup flawless, her heels clicking against the floor like she hadn't just worked a long, exhausting day. "Hey," she said, dropping her purse on the table. "I'm starving. Did you eat?" I studied her face. She was acting normal, too normal. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Where were you?" She didn't even blink. "Work dinner. Long and boring. You didn't miss anything." There it was. The lie. Straight to my face. "Really?" I said, standing up. "Because I checked the GPS on the car." For a moment, just a split second, something flickered across her face: shock, panic, but then it was gone, replaced by that practiced, confident smirk she always wore when she wanted to turn things around on me. "Wow, Tom," she said, laughing. "You're checking my car now?" "What's next, tracking my phone?" "Don't do that," I shot back. "Don't act like I'm crazy. Just tell me why you've been going to that apartment complex." She sighed dramatically, shaking her head like I was exhausting her. "You seriously think I'm sneaking around on you?" I folded my arms, waiting. She rolled her eyes. "Fine. It's a friend's place. Sarah from work. She's been going through a breakup, and I've been crashing at her place to keep her company some nights." I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this. It sounded good. Believable, except one thing didn't add up. If you're just keeping her company, why is Nathan's GPS showing the exact same location on his days off? That wiped the smirk right off her face. She opened her mouth, then closed it, scrambling for an answer. That was all I needed to see. The next night, I decided I needed proof. So I followed her. Vanessa left at 8 p.m., dressed up again, saying she had yet another work dinner. I waited 5 minutes, then grabbed my keys and tailed her. I kept my distance, heart hammering in my chest as I followed the black Mercedes down the highway. I already knew where she was going, the apartment complex, but I wasn't ready for what I saw when I got there. She wasn't just meeting Nathan, she was in his arms before she even made it inside. That I watched from my car as she wrapped her arms around him, kissing him like she hadn't just left her husband at home, and that's when I knew without a doubt that my marriage was over. That I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I was sitting in my car, watching my wife, the woman I had built a life with, wrap her arms around Nathan like I didn't exist. Like our marriage was nothing more than a loose thread she had already pulled free. She kissed him, right there in the parking lot, under the glow of the streetlights. She kissed him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Something inside me snapped that I could have confronted her right then and there. I could have stormed out of my car, screamed at them, caused a scene. But I didn't. No, I sat there and watched, because I wanted to see how deep this betrayal ran. That I followed them inside, not close enough to be noticed, but close enough to know exactly where they were going. Apartment 4B. Nathan punched in the code at the door like he had done this 100 times before. Vanessa laughed at something he said, resting a hand on his arm as they disappeared inside. The door shut. That I stood in the dimly lit hallway, heart pounding in my chest. That I had a choice. That I could knock, burst in, demand answers, or I could wait. That I leaned against the wall and checked the time. 8:43 p.m. That I waited. 10 minutes. 15:30. At 9:17 p.m., I heard her. Vanessa's laugh, followed by something lower, his voice, then the sound that made my stomach twist, the unmistakable rhythm of a bed creaking. That I swallowed, the bile rising in my throat. That I had my proof. That I had more than enough. That I turned around and walked out, leaving the two of them to their secret. For now. That I drove aimlessly for over an hour. The image of Vanessa in Nathan's arms burned into my brain. I had seen it, heard it. I didn't need any more proof. The marriage I thought I had was already dead, but I wasn't going to be the one left picking up the pieces. No, if Vanessa wanted to throw our life away for her driver, she was going to face the consequences. That I wasn't going to act out of blind rage. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg for an explanation. I was going to handle this right. That I needed a plan. First, I gathered evidence. That I went back to the apartment complex the next morning while Nathan was at work. The security cameras at the entrance covered the entire parking lot, and I knew someone in management would have access to that footage. It took some persuasion, but I got what I needed: a clear video of Vanessa arriving at Nathan's place, waiting for him, kissing him, walking inside together. Hard evidence. Next, I checked our finances. Vanessa and I had a joint account, but I handled most of the serious bills. If she thought she was going to walk away from this without repercussions, she was wrong. That I pulled copies of bank statements, checked credit card transactions. Nothing suspicious until I spotted a charge at a 5-star hotel downtown from 2 months ago. She had been seeing him for a while. That I wasn't just dealing with a mistake. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing, this was calculated, planned. That was all I needed to know. That evening, I sat in Mark's apartment, my best friend, my go-to for everything. He listened as I laid it all out. The late nights, the GPS history, the security footage, the bank statements. By the time I finished, he let out a low whistle. Damn, man. You got her nailed to the wall. Yeah, I said, running a hand through my hair. I just don't know whether I should confront her now or let her dig herself in deeper. Mark leaned back, thinking. What do you want out of this? Divorce? The word sat heavy between us. I'd never imagined myself as a divorced man. But I knew there was no way forward with Vanessa. Yeah, I finally admitted. But I want to make sure she doesn't screw me over in the process. Mark nodded. Then you don't just confront her, man. You corner her. That's when I knew exactly what I was going to do, that I wasn't just going to confront Vanessa, that I was going to expose her. Once I decided on my plan, everything became clearer. I wasn't just going to confront Vanessa. I was going to make sure she had no way out. No lies, no gaslighting, no twisting the truth to make me look like the bad guy. She had already made her choice. Now it was time for her to face it. The first step was playing dumb. For the next few days, I acted like nothing had changed. I smiled when she came home, asked about her day, even made her coffee in the mornings. Vanessa, to her credit, played along perfectly. She kissed me on the cheek like she wasn't sneaking off to be with Nathan. She scrolled through her phone at night, thinking I wasn't watching, but I was. And every time she picked up her keys and said, "Work thing, be back late," I knew exactly where she was going, and I let her, because I was gathering everything I needed. On Friday morning, I made my move. I called my lawyer, one of the best in the city. I laid out everything: the GPS records, the bank statements, the security footage, the affair. "This is good," she said, sounding impressed. "If you want to make sure she doesn't take half of everything in the divorce, this is the way to do it." "That's exactly what I want," I told her. "And you'll need a witness for when you confront her. Someone neutral who can verify everything." I already had that covered. That evening, I called Mark. "You free tomorrow?" I asked. "Yeah, why?" "Because I'm going to catch Vanessa red-handed. And I want you there when it happens." There was a pause. Then Mark let out a low chuckle. "Damn, Tom. This is going to be brutal." "Yeah," I said, gripping the phone. "But she deserves every second of it." The trap was set. Tomorrow, Vanessa wouldn't just be lying to me. She'd be lying to herself, and for the first time, she'd have to face the truth. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Vanessa was still asleep, curled up in bed like she didn't have a care in the world. I stood in the doorway, watching her for a moment, my mind replaying every lie she had told me over the past few months. By the end of the day, she wouldn't be able to lie anymore. I grabbed my phone and texted Mark. "Be here at 7 p.m. She's leaving at 6:30. Mark, got it. You sure about this? Me, 100%. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting even. It was about taking control of my life again. Vanessa had made her choice. Now, she was going to own it. At 6:15 p.m., Vanessa came downstairs, dressed up again, tight black dress, hair perfect, like she had somewhere important to be. "I have a late dinner with some clients," she said, grabbing her purse off the counter. "Don't wait up." I smiled. "Of course," I said. She kissed me on the cheek, the audacity, and walked out the door. The moment she was gone, I sprang into action. I called Mark. "She just left. I'll text you the address, meet me there." Then, I pulled up the GPS tracker. As expected, she was heading straight to Nathan's apartment. I grabbed my keys and left. This was at 6:50 p.m., outside Nathan's apartment. I parked a block away and waited. A few minutes later, Mark's car pulled up behind mine. He got out, glancing at me with an uneasy expression. "You really want to do this, man?" I nodded. "I have to." We made our way toward the apartment building, keeping a low profile. The security footage I pulled earlier showed that Nathan always left his door unlocked whenever Vanessa was coming over. I was counting on that tonight. Mark and I made it to apartment 4B. I reached for the handle. It turned easily. Unlocked. My heart pounded in my chest. This was the moment. The truth. The final confirmation of everything I already knew. I pushed the door open, and what I saw inside changed everything. I stepped inside, Mark right behind me, and immediately, I heard them, the unmistakable sounds of Vanessa and Nathan, low murmurs, a giggle, the soft rustling of sheets. The apartment smelled like cheap cologne and wine, a mixture that made my stomach turn. My heart was pounding, but my mind was sharp. I wanted this moment to happen. I needed to see it with my own eyes. As we moved deeper into the apartment, the sounds became clearer, then I heard her voice breathless, teasing. You drive me crazy, Nate. I clenched my fists. Mark gave me a look, part warning, part are you sure you want to do this? But I didn't hesitate. That I turned the corner into the bedroom, and there she was, Vanessa, half undressed, tangled in the sheets with Nathan, her hands on his bare chest, his mouth inches from hers. For a second, none of us moved, then Vanessa's head whipped toward me. Her eyes went wide. Tom, she stammered, scrambling to cover herself. Nathan bolted upright, looking like a deer caught in headlights. Mark, standing beside me, let out a low whistle. Damn. That's rough. I crossed my arms, watching as Vanessa fumbled for words. It's not what it looks like, she blurted. That almost made me laugh. Really? I said, tilting my head. Because it looks exactly like you're screwing the guy I pay to drive you around. Nathan started stammering, grabbing his shirt off the floor. Listen, man, this isn't. Shut up, Nathan, I snapped. This is between me and my wife. Vanessa's face was twisted in desperation now. Tom, I can explain. Oh, please do, I said, stepping forward. Explain why you've been sneaking out every night. Explain why I've got security footage of you kissing him outside this apartment. Explain why you lied to my face over and over again. Her mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out, and in that moment, I saw it, she wasn't sorry. She was just caught. That I reached into my pocket and pulled out the divorce papers. Her eyes widened even more. Wait, what is that? What do you think? I tossed them onto the bed. I already had everything prepared. I just needed to catch you in the act. Her breath hitched. Tom, we don't have to do this. Oh, we do, I interrupted. And you know what? You don't even need to sign right now. My lawyer will take care of everything. But here's the fun part: since I have hard evidence of your affair, you get nothing. Vanessa's face drained of color. What? She choked out. That's right, sweetheart, I said, voice dripping with mock sympathy. No alimony. No house. No more luxury shopping sprees on my dime. You threw it all away for a few nights with your driver. Nathan, wisely, stayed silent. Mark, still leaning against the doorway, chuckled. Damn, Vanessa. You really fumbled the bag, huh? She turned on him, her face twisted with rage. Get out, she shrieked. Both of you. I didn't move. Oh no, I said coolly. I'm leaving. But first, I just wanted to see you for what you really are. And now that I have. I smirked. You're not worth another second of my time. I turned on my heel, walked out, and never looked back. That I walked out of that apartment feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time: clarity. No more second guessing. No more wondering if I was imagining things. Vanessa had shown me exactly who she was, and I had made sure she knew I wasn't going to be the fool who tolerated it. Behind me, I could still hear her screaming, whether it was at Nathan, at herself, or at the universe for flipping her world upside down. I didn't know. And I didn't care. Mark followed me down the hall, shaking his head with a smirk. Man, I have seen some wild breakups, but that was brutal. I let out a breath. I felt lighter, like I had been carrying around dead weight for months, and now it was finally gone. She deserved every second of it, I muttered. Mark clapped me on the back. Damn right she did. Now, let's go celebrate your freedom. We ended up at a bar downtown, one of those dimly lit places with a live band playing in the corner and the smell of whiskey thick in the air. It was exactly what I needed. I sat at the bar, nursing a drink, letting the reality of everything settle in. I was getting divorced, I was walking away from a woman I had built years of my life with, and instead of feeling empty, I felt free. Mark was chatting up some woman a few stools down when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Rough night, a voice said. I turned to see a woman, late 20s, wavy dark hair, a confident smirk on her lips. She was holding a cocktail, watching me with an amused expression. I chuckled, shaking my head. Something like that. Let me guess, she leaned in slightly, break up? I raised an eyebrow. That obvious? She grinned. You have the look of a guy who just walked away from a train wreck. I've seen it before. I exhaled, laughing under my breath. You have no idea. She took a sip of her drink, studying me. So what now? That question hit harder than I expected. What now? For so long, my life had revolved around Vanessa making her happy, keeping our life together running smoothly, sacrificing pieces of myself to maintain an illusion of happiness. But now, it was about me. I met the woman's gaze, a slow smile forming. I guess I find out. She clinked her glass against mine. Sounds like a damn good plan. I woke up feeling better than I had in months. The weight was gone. No more paranoia, no more wondering where Vanessa was or who she was with. I checked my phone, expecting messages from Mark. Instead, I had 4 missed calls from Vanessa and a text. Tom, please. We need to talk. I stared at the screen, shaking my head. Now she wanted to talk. Now that she realized she had lost everything, I tossed the phone onto my nightstand and leaned back in bed, exhaling slowly. She had her chance, and she threw it away. This time, I was the one walking away, and I wasn't looking back. The day after Vanessa's affair was exposed, I felt like a new man. I went for a run, grabbed coffee, and took my time enjoying the freedom that came with not caring where my wife was. It was refreshing, liberating, even, but reality wasn't done with me. By noon, my phone was still blowing up with calls and messages from Vanessa. She had texted me a dozen times, each message shifting in tone. First, she tried denial. Tom, let's be reasonable. You don't have to do this. We can talk. Then, anger. So you're just going to throw everything away because of one mistake? Then, guilt. You don't understand, Tom. I was confused. I never meant to hurt you. Please, just talk to me. And finally, desperation. I made a mistake. I was stupid. I miss you. Please, don't do this. I stared at my phone, watching the notifications pile up, and felt, nothing that a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, these messages would have wrecked me. I would have sat there overanalyzing every word, wondering if I should have done something differently. But now, I saw them for what they were. Vanessa didn't miss me. She missed the security I provided. The lifestyle. The comfort. She didn't care about me, she cared about what she was losing, and I wasn't about to give that back to her. I took a deep breath, opened our text thread, and typed out the last thing I would ever say to her. Vanessa, there's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. I made mine. This is over. Then, I blocked her number. No more games. No more second chances. I was done. That night, Mark and I went out again, this time to celebrate the fact that I had finally closed the door on my marriage. You actually blocked her? Mark asked, raising his glass. Yep, I said, taking a sip of my drink. Best decision I've ever made. He grinned. Damn, Tom. I'm proud of you, man. I thought for sure she'd find a way to pull you back in. I shook my head. Not this time. She lost that power the moment she chose Nathan over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my life again. No more waiting for Vanessa to maybe be the wife I deserved. No more hoping she'd change. No more sacrificing my happiness for someone who didn't value it. I had spent years building a future around her. Now, I was finally building one for myself, and it felt damn good. For the first time in years, I woke up without a sense of dread weighing me down. No more wondering where Vanessa was, no more checking my phone for half-hearted excuses, no more walking on eggshells around a marriage that had been dead long before I caught her. It felt strange at first. Like I had spent so much time wrapped up in that toxic cycle that I didn't know what to do now that it was over. But the more I let myself breathe, the more I realized that I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of what I thought we had, and once I let go of that illusion, I was free. A few days after I blocked Vanessa's number, she found another way to reach me. An email that I almost deleted it without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. One last chance to talk. Tom, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. I made a mistake. I got caught up in something I couldn't control, and I let my emotions get the best of me. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to understand that what we had was real. I miss you. I miss us. And if there's even the smallest part of you that still believes in what we built together, please, just meet me. One last time. I'll be at the restaurant where we had our first date. 7 p.m. I just want to talk. I exhaled sharply, staring at the screen. It was classic Vanessa pulling the "we had something real" card after she had already burned it to the ground. I could have gone. I could have given her the satisfaction of one final meeting, let her beg, let her see that I had truly moved on, but then I asked myself, what do I actually gain from this? Closure. I already had it, satisfaction. I didn't need it. So, I closed my laptop and walked away because I wasn't wasting another second of my life on Vanessa. Instead of meeting Vanessa at that restaurant, I did something else that night. I went out with Emma, the woman I had met at the bar a few nights back, the one who had seen through the exhaustion in my face and asked me, so what now? We grabbed drinks, talked about life, and for the first time, I felt like I was actually present in the moment. No baggage. No lies. Just two people enjoying the company of one another. At one point, she looked at me with that thoughtful expression of hers. So, did you go? She asked, taking a sip of her cocktail. Go where? To meet your ex. I smiled. Nope. Her eyebrows raised slightly. No curiosity? I shook my head. I already know everything I need to. She studied me for a second, then grinned. Good answer. And that's when it really hit me. I wasn't just moving on. I was moving up. The night I didn't meet Vanessa at that restaurant felt like a defining moment, one of those rare times in life where you make a decision and know, without a doubt, that it was the right one. I could picture her sitting there, waiting, checking her phone, wondering if I would show up. But she didn't deserve another second of my time. Instead, I was exactly where I was meant to be, sitting across from Emma, enjoying a drink, laughing at some ridiculous story about her terrible old boss. And for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about Vanessa. I was thinking about me. A few days later, she tried again. This time, it wasn't a call. It wasn't a text. It wasn't even an email. It was a letter. When I saw the envelope in my mailbox, my first instinct was to toss it straight in the trash. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe just the need to see what she had left to say, made me open it. Inside was a handwritten note, the kind she used to leave me when we first got married. Tom, I don't know how else to reach you, so I'm writing this the old-fashioned way. I know I've lost you, and maybe I deserve that. But I just need you to know one thing, I did love you. Maybe I lost sight of that, but it was real. You were real. We were real. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope one day you can look back and remember the good parts too. Because despite everything, I do. Goodbye, Tom. I read it twice, then I folded it neatly, walked to the trash can, and threw it away because Vanessa's words didn't change anything. I didn't need her validation. I didn't need her to tell me that what we had was real, because real love doesn't betray you. Real love doesn't make excuses. Real love doesn't put you through hell and then ask you to remember the good times. She was finally closing the door, but I had already walked away. The more time passed, the more I felt like I was stepping into a new version of myself, one that wasn't weighed down by Vanessa's lies or my own anger. I started doing things for me again. I picked up my old hobbies. I reconnected with friends I had lost touch with. I traveled, something Vanessa never wanted to do unless it was first class and Instagram worthy. And Emma? She wasn't a rebound. She wasn't a distraction, she was different. One night, we were walking along the waterfront when she stopped, turning to me with that thoughtful expression I was starting to love. You ever think about what your life would have been like if things didn't fall apart? She asked. I thought about that for a second. Yeah, I admitted. But then I realized how small my life would have been. I would have been stuck with someone who didn't really see me. And I wouldn't have known what real happiness felt like. She smiled. So, are you happy now? I looked at her, at the city lights reflecting in her eyes, at the peacefulness I felt just standing there with her. Yeah, I said. I really am. And for the first time in a long time, I knew it was the truth. Months passed, and with each day, Vanessa became more of a distant memory. Not because I forced myself to forget her, but because I no longer cared enough to remember that I had spent so much time letting her define me, her betrayal, her lies, her selfishness. But now, I was Tom, not Tom, the guy whose wife cheated on him with her driver, and that made all the difference. One afternoon, I got an unexpected email from my lawyer. That was it. No ceremony, no dramatic ending, just a simple confirmation that my marriage was officially over. I stared at the email for a moment, letting it sink in, then I exhaled, smiled, and deleted it, because I didn't need to hold on to it. It was over. I was free. Emma wasn't a replacement for Vanessa. She wasn't there to fix me, and I wasn't expecting her to. She was just herself. Real. Honest. And the more time I spent with her, the more I realized what a healthy connection actually looked like. There was no walking on eggshells. No guessing games. No manipulations, just laughter, late-night talks, and quiet moments that didn't need to be filled with empty words. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to let someone new in. One evening, Emma and I were walking through the city when it happened that I saw her, Vanessa. She was sitting alone outside a cafe, scrolling through her phone, a nearly untouched coffee sitting in front of her. She looked up briefly, and for a second, our eyes met. Her expression flickered: shock, regret, something else I couldn't quite place. But you know what I felt? Nothing, not anger. Not sadness. Not even satisfaction, just indifference. She was just another person now. She was no longer the center of my world. No longer the ghost haunting my every thought. And that was when I knew I had truly moved on. Emma must have noticed something in my face because she squeezed my hand gently. You okay? I smiled at her. Yeah. I really am. And with that, I walked past Vanessa without another glance, because the best revenge wasn't anger. It was being happy without her. Walking past Vanessa that night felt like closing the last chapter of a book I should have stopped reading long ago. She was nothing more than a footnote in my story now, one I no longer had any interest in revisiting. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. Lighter. Like I had finally, completely untangled myself from her shadow, and for the first time, I wasn't just moving on. I was moving forward. With Vanessa gone from my life, I started focusing on things I had neglected during our marriage. I remodeled my apartment, the one I moved into after leaving our old house. I turned it into a space that reflected me, not some watered-down version of myself who had to fit into Vanessa's world. I traveled, something I had always wanted to do but never could because Vanessa had been too high maintenance to go anywhere that wasn't five-star luxury. I built stronger friendships, people like Mark, who had been there through everything, and new friends who only knew this version of me, not the one stuck in a toxic marriage. And most importantly, I allowed myself to be happy, not just because I was in a new relationship, but because I chose to be. One evening, Emma and I were sitting on my balcony, watching the sunset. She had her legs curled under her, nursing a glass of wine, while I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the peace of the moment. You ever think about what would have happened if you stayed? She asked, looking at me thoughtfully. I knew exactly what she meant. Yeah, I admitted. And you know what? I would have been miserable. Emma nodded. You don't regret anything? I thought about that for a moment. I regret not seeing the signs sooner. I regret wasting time on someone who didn't deserve me. But do I regret leaving? No. Not for a second. She smiled. Good. Because the man sitting in front of me isn't broken. He's not bitter. He's better. That hit me harder than I expected, because she was right that I had survived the worst thing I thought could happen to me. And instead of letting it destroy me, I had grown from it. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, not just from a person, but from the version of yourself that accepted less than you deserved. I could have stayed with Vanessa. I could have let her manipulate me into believing it was just a mistake. I could have clung to a marriage that was already gone, but I didn't, and because of that, I was here on a balcony, with a woman who respected me, living a life that I built on my own terms. Emma took my hand, lacing her fingers with mine. "So what's next for you, Tom?" she asked, a teasing glint in her eye. I smirked. "Whatever the hell I want." And for the first time, I truly meant it. A year ago, I thought my life was over, when I caught Vanessa cheating, when I confronted her in that apartment, when I walked away from everything I had built with her. I thought I was stepping into the unknown, into something terrifying. But now, I realized that I hadn't lost my life that day. I had taken it back. It had been months since I last heard from Vanessa. After her desperate attempts to talk, after the final email, she had finally let go. Or so I thought. One evening, as I was locking up my apartment after a long day, I saw her name flash across my phone. A single message. "I saw you today. You looked happy. I hope you are." I stared at it for a moment, not because I felt anything for her anymore, but because I realized, I was happy. She was right. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I simply deleted the message and moved on. Life kept moving, and so did I. I wasn't just healing, I was thriving. I had built a new life, one that didn't revolve around someone else's approval. I had rediscovered my passions: travel, creativity, friendships that actually mattered. I had found a partner in Emma, someone who didn't complete me, but complemented the person I had become. And most importantly, I had learned that sometimes, the hardest things we go through lead us to the best versions of ourselves. If there's one thing I've taken away from all of this, it's that betrayal doesn't define you. What defines you is how you rise from it. I walked away from a toxic marriage. I rebuilt my life. I found happiness on my own terms. And if you're going through something similar, if you feel stuck in a situation that's breaking you, remember this: you are stronger than you think. And sometimes, the best thing you can do, is walk away, because the life waiting on the other side, it's better than you ever imagined. Months passed, and the past became nothing more than a faint shadow, something that no longer controlled me, no longer had a hold over my thoughts. Vanessa? She was just a name now. A lesson. A reminder of what I would never tolerate again. But I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was free. One afternoon, Emma and I were walking through a street market downtown, weaving between booths, sampling food, and laughing at ridiculous handmade crafts. It was the kind of simple, easy day that I never could have had with Vanessa, because she was never satisfied with the simple things. "You seem different today," Emma noted as we stopped at a coffee stand. "How so?" I asked. She tilted her head, studying me. "I don't know, lighter. Like you finally let go of something." I thought about it, sipping my coffee as I looked out at the city, my life, one I had built from the ashes of something that was never meant to last. "I think I have," I admitted, because for the first time, I truly had. I wasn't looking for closure anymore. But sometimes, life brings it to you whether you want it or not. One evening, Emma and I were at a rooftop event, live music, open air, string lights hanging overhead. The kind of night where everything feels effortless. And then, I saw her, Vanessa. She was at the far end of the rooftop, alone at a small table, stirring a drink absently. She looked up, and for the second time in months, our eyes met. This time, I didn't feel a thing. No anger. No sadness. No resentment, just indifference. She hesitated, like she was debating whether to approach me, but I didn't wait to find out. I turned to Emma, smiling. "Let's get out of here. I know a better spot." She grinned. "Lead the way." And just like that, I walked away without a second thought, without regret, because the past wasn't something I needed to confront anymore. It was already behind me. If there's one last thing I've learned, it's this: betrayal doesn't break you. It reveals you. It shows you who you really are, what you really deserve, and what you're really capable of when you stop letting someone else define your worth. I didn't just survive what happened to me. I became better because of it. And now, I was living a life I almost missed, one that was mine, built on my own terms, with someone who truly saw me, and that was the best revenge of all.